The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website.
Hello everyone and welcome to Live and Learn. I'm your host, Jerry Renaud. We're all concerned about scams on the telephone, on the internet, and now even on our phones. Here with us today is Ryan Sothen. He's the outreach coordinator at the Nebraska Attorney General's office dealing with those scams. He's a wonderful friend of the program, has all kinds of interesting tips for you. Don't go away.
Welcome to Live and Learn. I'm Doug Jobs. Bright Lights is a creative learning experience for elementary age children here in Lincoln. It turns the summer slide into the summer stride. And there are opportunities for parents and grandparents to also be involved. Stay tuned for this interesting discussion about this creative experience for children in Lincoln.
Hello, I'm Barb Tyler. Today I'll be talking with John Cariato about the Master Gardener program, as well as the Backyard Farmer and the Garden Club of Lincoln. If you'd like more information, I hope you'll stay tuned.
Our eyes are an incredible organ. Good eye care requires both a physical examination for vision and an examination for eye health. Stay tuned for an interesting discussion about how good eye health can avoid us having bad falls.
This and more on today's Live and Learn.
Hello and welcome to Live and Learn. I'm your host, Jerry Renaud. I'll bet most of you, just like I do, get a phone call or a text message or something on your internet almost every day that is offering you grand things, or in some cases is trying to scare you, telling you that perhaps there's a arrest warrant out for you or you owe some money somewhere along the line. All of those are scams. All of those are people trying to take your money and find your personal information. We want to help you avoid all of that and keep your sanity and keep your personal identity and make sure that you keep your money. And we have a fabulous guest here who is going to tell us all kinds of ways to avoid that. It is Ryan Sothen. Ryan, thanks for being with us. I want to make sure I get your title right. You're the Outreach Coordinator at the Nebraska Department of Justice in the Office of the Attorney General.
Correct.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be back. And though we have all trends moving in the right direction for frauds and scams, I have not, unfortunately, worked myself out of a job yet.
Okay, very good. Well, so the first thing I want to ask, because the last time I think we talked, the federal government was going to try to help us in this regard, and they were going to help us to avoid at least some of these phone calls. It doesn't seem like that has been terribly effective, at least as of yet. Tell us what is going on with that.
We're about 6-7 months into a new era in telephony, and that is the Post-Traced Act implementation. TRACED is an acronym that means Telephone Robocall Abuse, Criminal Enforcement, and Deterrence. And it is a new digital architecture that features a token that is placed on every call, and that token is essential for authenticating the call as what shows up on your caller ID is in fact the person who's calling you, cannot be duplicated by the scammer, so the scammer can't implement that token, and therefore it's automatic call rejection or scam call detection and rejection in and of itself. First of all, it has implemented across the nation's VoIP or internet-based protocol telephone networks. In this area, that would be your Spectrums, your Kinetics, your Allos. In Omaha, it would be Cox. For consumers who are still receiving the scam calls, chances are they're still on old legacy networks, which are the copper wire-based networks, the old LT&T, if you will, from a number of years ago. Those hardwired companies still have another 2 years to fully transition. But we have noticed a significant drop-off in calls because the scammers almost exclusively use the internet as their communications backbone, and the improvements that we're seeing in that internet architecture are moving into the traditional old school legacy networks. But in another 2 years, we should see this eliminated to the same degree that we saw credit card counterfeiting go away about 5 years ago when the new chip-based cards came out.
So on my phone, on my smartphone, every once in a while I'll get a call and it'll say, could be spam. Is that kicking in then to stop that?
That's exactly what it is. The suspected scam warning or suspected spam means that somewhere as that call was traversing the network, probably in those instances the internet backbone piece, the chip or the digital token was detected as not present. Consequently, that or the caller ID went to a lookup table and it was found as a previously reported spam number. So you're getting a fair warning on your caller ID. As this architecture evolves and becomes widespread, there'll be subroutines that the consumer can elect. And that is, I'm willing to risk handling those calls, or I'd like all of those calls to go to voicemail, or I'd like to block all of those calls. But yes, that is your first indication that suspected spam, that key elements of the Traced Act are working in reducing your scam call volume.
Now, as a bit of an old-fashioned guy, I still have a landline. Is that eventually going to kick in at that point as well on those?
There are excellent chances, especially in this viewership area, that your landline is one of the legacy-based telephones, and yes, it will ultimately kick in. Give it approximately 2 years, or from the point of this broadcast, I'm going to say another 18 months, and I think that you will see that scam calls, while not 100% eliminated, are probably to the point of no longer being an irritant.
Okay, good. All right, let's talk about some of these scams. I like to sort of set our conversation up, and I think we probably showed this one before, but I think it's always good to get a visualization of what is happening on the other end of some of these phone calls. You might think that it is somebody in an office, or it might be this bank of phone calls, but this is sort of a fun one that it's two people sitting in their living room having a cup of coffee, and one of them is making a phone call. Let's take a quick look at it.
The IRS.
He's coming for you.
Mrs. Roberts? Yes, this is George Hudson from the IRS. You play on their ignorance, right? You say you got interest penalties, you could lose your house, all that stuff.
It's
and they're
like a nightmare came knocking at their door.
Yes, you do owe, ma'am. Our records indicate that you do. Records don't lie. We need you to pay that today. All right, debit card it is. Yes, just give you the number, expiration date, and the security code on the back. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, people of America.
So I just thought we might show that. Again, it's just kind of an interesting thing, and maybe if people get that visualization in their head that that it's just people trying to take their money, maybe that will help in some fashion.
A very typical incident, and the scam calls largely fall into the imposter scam category. And watch out, these are professional scam artists who are expert at storytelling. And that story is going to be very, very compelling in terms of either good news or bad, but it will engage you emotionally. And that emotional engagement is to add a degree of urgency to move you along to accomplishing what the scammer most wants, and that is for you to part with your hard-earned income savings store of funds and send it to them not now, but right now.
Right. Okay, let's take a look at some of these. You have a list of some of the top scams that take place in the state of Nebraska. Let's at least very quickly go through a few of these, and then we're going to individually look at them as well.
Yeah, this scam list comes from an annual tally of calls and scam submissions to our Consumer Affairs Response Team at the Department of Justice. And every year we then take that tally, and we find that the more things change, the more they remain the same, that this list is fairly consistent year over year. It's the rotation that tends to change.
Right.
A few new elements this year thanks to COVID, but again, this is accurate information through the end of last year.
Okay, so let's sort of go through the list. We'll see how far we can get today. The first one is health, and health, of course, involves COVID. Probably the vaccination part of it. Those scams has probably gone away, but there are a number of things still happening with COVID, are there not?
There are indeed. First of all, the health category is fairly broad. This might surprise some of the viewers, but one of the primary calls that we get that are health related are the free trials for supplements and weight loss pills. Those free trials then become very expensive subscription-based services that consumers have a hard time getting under. On COVID, yes, there was concerns early in the year last year on vaccinations, especially the second vaccine and then the booster shots, with calls going out regarding those status or your vaccination card or PPP in terms of N95 masks. And so those are all ploys to obtain your personal information. And then on Medicare, we have very good scam artists that really don't have your personal information, but within this age segment, they can bet and tell a convincing story that it's likely that the recipient has had a medical procedure in the recent past, and so they're trying to convince them to part with personal information by way of being helpful in terms of, we want to make sure that your insurance is covered. And again, it's just a way to get your Medicare number.
Now, I get a lot of calls about Medicare, and they seem like they're real legitimate. They're very nice voice in coming on and saying this. And what I've started doing is I go, I'm not interested, take me off your list right now. And most of the time they say, fine, we'll take you off the list. And then they're hanging up. But what is Medicare? I mean, the sign-up period is at the end of the year. It seems like all of these calls would be bogus. I'm not sure what they're trying to do sometimes.
Some of the calls are indeed legitimate. There's a lot of money to be made within the segment for Medicare-related products, MedSup especially. But the scammers themselves are out to obtain your personal information. And again, they're just trying to sound convincing and helpful so that you will be put off guard and be more willing to volunteer that information.
Now, we also have the one where they'll tell you that you owe money for services somewhere along the line.
I would be highly suspicious of that because that should be covered on your statement of benefits that you receive. But one of our key maxims that I'll share again here is that if you did not originate the telephone call, do not give out the information, because you do not know with certainty that that is in fact Medicare. Caller ID can still be manipulated in many cases, though the TRACED Act is designed to stop that as well. If you have a question or concern, you can contact CMS, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Studies, by toll-free telephone number or online to verify that the call is legitimate, and then with you initiating that call or contact, feel more confident in giving out the information. I'd be very wary answering anyone's inquiry by phone.
And you know, I'm getting a number of these on text anymore, and I'm not sure how that ended up happening, but I'll bet you I get 4 or 5 a week saying you can still collect on this $2,500, or this is still waiting for you. And I know we talked earlier, when you get the text, is it okay to open it and then go to the info button and delete the caller, or should I not even do that? Should I just or block the call, or should I just delete the text message?
Scam text messaging is a new frontier in the overall scam architecture, if you will. We count that actually under internet services, one of our top 10 complaint categories. But to answer your question, yes, you can touch the I in the text message to get to the message envelope and block without fear of unleashing malware onto the phone. Or you can simply delete the text message the first time. If it keeps coming back with their persistency, then you can go ahead and block.
Okay, very good. All right, so let's move on from health. Let's talk about imposter scams. This is one that's been around for a while, and obviously it is still effective.
It is very effective, and it is the 800-pound gorilla, if you will, because it accounts for the vast majority of complaints to our office. We have imposter scams basically across 5 categories, from business imposters to family and friends, government imposters, romance scams, tech support scams, but this again is the prime real estate of the storyteller, the professional scam artist telling you a story too good to be true or too bad to be believed in a compelling manner that gets you emotionally engaged so that you drop your guard and basically give them what they want, which is your personal information, but preferably your money.
Yeah. So give us a quick example. Is this the one where people will call and say, your grandson has been arrested in a foreign country and you need to send money immediately to make sure?
That's a perfect example of an imposter scam. That's the family emergency scam. But what the viewers are probably more aware of and have been contacting our office to complain about is tied to COVID, and those are the business imposter scams. So many of our constituents are complaining of calls from, for example, Amazon, where it's the fraud department of Amazon who's reaching out proactively, indicating that
you've made a purchase somewhere?
Precisely. And that they are going to verify the purchase, and if it's not made by you and therefore fraudulent, quote unquote, they are then going to reverse the charges with you right now on the phone, which is actually their ruse to get you to give up your personal information.
Right. Okay. So lots of things with identity theft, but we better be keep moving on. How about auto related? That's one that you say you're not getting those anymore, or at least not very many of them. But I certainly do, and it's about the warranty. Your warranty is almost up. I get them in the mail, and I get them on phone calls. Yes,
this is the category for the auto warranty robocalls. We still are getting those, but the new Traced Act has given us increased authority to go after these companies. And in both Florida and in Indiana, we've been successful in dismantling, if you will, those scams. It also, though, gets to the notion of repair and maintenance issues. And another popular complaint from Nebraskans is in this state where we do not have a price gouging law. We have concerned citizens traversing I-80 who find that maybe around Kearney or North Platte that gas prices as advertised are much higher at the pump. So they want to call and let us know.
You know, I was going to Kearney not too long ago, and there's a big sign on the side of the road that had real cheap regular gas, and so I pulled in, and it wasn't. It was only on the one pump. Which was, I don't know whether that's a scam or not, but it certainly was interesting.
That has been brought to our office's attention on a number of times. Again, it's not against the law in terms of the court's finding, but it makes it incumbent on the consumer to be duly diligent to read the pump before they start the gas, because there is a small placard, if you will, on the pump itself telling you where the discounted advertised gas is available. Sometimes it's for cash only as well, and I don't know many people who are buying their gasoline with just cash anymore.
Right, interesting. All right, well, I've been told we're out of time.
Well, that was quick.
That was quick. Will you come back and finish this up? Let's at least put up a graphic. If somebody has been scammed, think they've been scammed, want more information, what should they do?
We welcome them, first of all, to report to our office, and that is at telephone number 402-471-2682. When they call, be sure to press option 1. You'll be connected to one of our live attendants, and that's in our Consumer Affairs Response Team. If you're outside this viewing area but still within the state, you can dial toll-free at 800-727-6432. And then other than that, I just want to encourage the customers to slow down. S meaning slow down. L, log the contact, record the telephone number so that O, you can one call and report, whether that's to a family member or friend or to our office. And then finally, who cares? We care. You can reach out and let us know and let us help you either stage your recovery or make sure that you're not further defrauded.
Ryan, thanks so much for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in. I'm your host, Jerry Renaud. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and always remember, it's never too late to live and learn.
Hi, I'm Randy Jones with Aging Partners. Did you know that Lincoln expects a 75% increase in the number of seniors living in our community over the next 15 years? Aging Partners is a community service that provides fitness programs to help keep older adults strong and healthy. This year, Lincoln Cares donations are providing funds for new fitness equipment. You can help make this happen. Sign up to support Lincoln Cares and add $1 to your LES bill each month.
Welcome to Live and Learn. Bright Lights is a creative learning experience for students from kindergarten to 8th grade here in Lincoln during the summer period. I'm Doug Jost, and my guest today is Lori Paulson, who's the Executive Director of Bright Lights. And welcome to the program, Lori.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us, first of all, a little bit about Bright Lights, what it's all about.
You bet. So we're a nonprofit organization here in Lincoln, and our goal is to take learning beyond the classroom and provide youth of the area with some unique hands-on learning opportunities. And those usually take the form of camps each summer. And we really focus on inspiring and sparking interest in specific topics for our youth.
How did this program get started, and how long has it been in existence here in Lincoln?
Sure. This coming summer, so summer 2022, will be our 36th summer. So we're blessed to have been around the community for a long time. We were started by two wonderful women, Jan Dutton and Barb Hoppy, and they really were looking for an opportunity to create kind of a mental Olympics for their students and for their children. And so they started Bright Lights, very small, and it has grown and become kind of a key part of the community. One of my favorite things is when I run into someone when I'm wearing a Bright Lights shirt and they say, "Oh, I was a Bright Lights kid." And they're oftentimes adults with their own children who are now Bright Lights kids too.
You mentioned camps. You used that phrase. So describe a little bit what you mean by that these are camps.
You bet. So they're really designed to be hands-on, a lot of learning disguised as fun in a lot of ways. So the majority of our offerings, and we have about 100 camps each summer, including this year. And this year we'll be at Roper Elementary, which is a great location for us. And we're so proud to have a great partnership with LPS to have that space. And so students either do half day or full day camps. And some of them will take two different ones, a different one in the morning and the afternoon, and then add to that some lunch cares for a full day. And so they will pick topics that are really unique to them. So anything from robotics to German cooking, or Hogwarts is a very popular one. So we really immerse them in those topics, and they learn while having lots of fun doing things hands-on.
So I mentioned it was from kindergarten to 8th grade. So any student in Lincoln can participate?
Absolutely. They just need to register on our website. So it'd be whatever grade a child is right now. So when they register, what grade they are in right now. So if you're a current kindergartner, then you're ready to go for those camps that are designed for kindergarten, first grade. And we divide up the curriculum in the camps by grade level. So it's very specific to that grade level. And we have students, though, from all over the state and other states as well.
Oh, okay.
Oftentimes they'll come and they'll visit a grandparent or a family member, and for a week, and they'll come and do our camp in the morning perhaps, and then in the afternoon grandma and grandpa and the kids go swimming or doing other fun things. So it's a big part of summer for kids from not just Lincoln, but all over the state and the country.
You mentioned about grandparents. We'll get into that. But first, I want to ask you about the instruction. Are these teachers from the Lincoln public schools system, or who are the instructors?
Well, a lot of them are teachers from the Lincoln Public Schools, but also some of our parochial schools and outlying areas. We've got a great robotics instructor from Seward. And so the majority of them are certified teachers or student teachers. But we also have some experts from the community that also instruct our camps. The majority of them are at Roper. However, we have sites all over the city. And so you'll see our Bright Lights kids at Make It Take It or the university's climbing wall. We have a new partnership this year with Southeast Community College, and they're doing 5 culinary camps for us. So our students will be all over the city, and they'll be ready to learn and have fun.
This leads us then back to this question of maybe grandparents. My question is, what about volunteers? You have the teachers, but do you have volunteers also that help with these situations?
We do. The majority of our volunteers are camp assistants, so they'll be in a classroom with a teacher. The majority of those are young people, but we welcome all. And there's lots of great opportunities, though, for our grandparents or our people in the community to support us. One of the ways is to, maybe have your family member come, your grandchild or a friend come and stay and go to camps. We also have scholarships available, so spreading the good word about our scholarship programs is great. Also, we also have donations that are available that they can come and donate from our website, which at brightlights.org. And we also have opportunities for teachers in the future. So if we have someone who really, is inspired or interested in something, they can also teach for us in the future. We'd love to have them.
Now, you mentioned about the financial situation. Tell us a little bit more about that, how the program is funded, and maybe a little bit about what the costs are.
You bet. So our half-day camps are $135. There's also sometimes a program fee if there's some items that are included with that. But we have scholarships available, and families just register and apply for the scholarship all at once. And so the scholarship, to apply for a scholarship, is just $10. This year we're doing things a little bit differently. We have some funds from the last couple of years, and we are excited to be able to offer 2 scholarships per child. So if they want to have more scholarships, they can do that. Initially, they will apply for the one. And so they just do that while they register at brightlights.org. And the majority of our funds, some funds come from registration fees, but a lot of them come from donations. We do a lot of grant writing, and we do a few special events. But we have a lot of individual donors that really support us and have supported us through the years. We're so grateful for that kind of support.
So there's an opportunity here for seniors, if they have grandchildren involved, to make a donation to the program.
Absolutely. There's a very visible donation button on our website at brightlights.org, and they can simply hit that and donate, or they can also find our address on the website and send funds if you'd like. Another way is if you're planning to do some giving during Give to Lincoln in May, they are welcome to do that. Those oftentimes get matching funds. So we're just another one of those organizations that you can support in that way.
You mentioned a little bit about a little teaser you had about maybe some new programs. Are there some other new programs you'd like to highlight?
Oh, I love to talk about our specific camps. We have over 30 of our 100 camps this year are new. Some of the old favorites are Digging Up Dinos or Bubble Festival, and those are for our younger campers. We have jewelry design and paddle sports and rope climbing. But we also have an engineering day camp that is really popular and inspires a lot of kids to become engineers. We love those. And some of the fun ones that kids come back to year after year, Wet, Wild, and Wacky Science. So you can see how those topics really are designed to inspire and spark the interest of students. So what we see happening right now is students and parents jump online and look at the schedule, and they decide what they'd like to take for camps this year. And then our registration opens on March 5th at 8 o'clock on our website. So all of our registration is done on our website.
So then just tell us in summary where they can get this information what on your website.
You bet. So they can visit our website. And if you visit brightlights.org, you'll see a button for schedule, and that'll give you all the information about camp. It'll include all of the camps, when they're held, what grade they are. And then when it's time for registration after March 5th, they can just register there. There'll be a register button at the top of the screen.
Lori, this is really interesting. I really appreciate you sharing this with us. And thanks for being with us today. This is a really creative program that's been in existence in, as you mentioned, in Lincoln for some time. And we really enjoy having it for our youth. So thanks a lot for sharing that information with us.
Well, thank you so much. We look forward to having a great summer.
And remember, it's never too late to live and learn about the educational opportunities for our youth here in Lincoln.
Hi, I'm Randy Jones with Aging Partners. Did you know that Lincoln expects a 75% increase in the number of seniors living in our community over the next 15 years? Aging Partners is a community service that provides fitness programs to help keep older adults strong and healthy. This year, Lincoln Cares donations are providing funds for new fitness equipment. You can help make this happen. Sign up to support Lincoln Cares and add $1 to your LES bill each month.
Hello, I'm Barb Tyler. Today I'll be talking with John Carriato, who is a master gardener and also involved with the Garden Club of Lincoln. I've been interested in these programs for quite a while, and I hope you will be too. John, what does a master gardener do, and who is the typical person that becomes a master gardener?
Well, the typical person is anybody who is interested in gardening. We have master gardener volunteers from all walks of life, people who have been, we have pharmacists, we have lawyers, we have doctors, we have teachers, we have everybody that you can think of is involved in the Master Gardener program. The Master Gardener program is not a group of elite gardeners. There are people who are gardeners who are much better than we are, who are not master gardeners. But the Master Gardener program exists to get people trained from the experts at the University of Nebraska in a wide variety of things. We have turf, we have rots and spots, we have critters, we have insects, we have soils, just the whole gamut of, and horticulture, of course. And we take those classes and we are extending, that's why we call it Extension Service, the University of Nebraska Extension. We are extending the reach of the university because we go out and talk with people and impart the knowledge that we have gained in our classes to the rest of the public.
So rots and spots, tell me that. I saw that and I thought that was interesting. Is it just like spotty fungus or?
Well, it is fungi, which are incredibly important, as it turns out, to the health of plants. We have to have the fungi. And there are people who don't like fungi, but if you like to eat, you ought to like fungi. And there are bacteria, there are, all kinds of things. A teaspoon of really good garden soil will have more living things than there are people on Earth.
Oh, interesting.
So, that's where that comes in. And of course, there are some of them, the rots and spots things, the fungi and bacteria and so forth, that will attack the plants and cause damage that we don't like. But there are, of course, insects that will attack the plants and do things that we don't like too.
Well, I thought that was interesting because I think of fungi, I always think of mushrooms, which I do like. So anyway, so what's the process of becoming a master gardener?
To become a master gardener, you have to apply and be accepted into the program. There are programs throughout the state. In order to become a master gardener, you should start by contacting your extension office or contact the statewide master gardener program. If you Google Nebraska Master Gardener, you will be taken to the Nebraska Master Gardener website. And the application process is detailed there for the campus program here in Lincoln, and for the rest of the state. There is one application process, but it's a little different for the county extension office here in Lincoln and for the extension offices in Sarpy and Douglas counties. So you need to contact those people to find out what the application process is. The fee, I believe, is uniform at $225. That is for the first year because there are materials that are disseminated and put together for the incoming Master Gardeners. A person who is incoming is required to do 40 hours of education, to complete 40 hours of education and pass a test, and then complete 40 hours of volunteer service in the first year. You are a Master Gardener apprentice in the first year until you have completed your 40 hours of volunteer work, and then you become a Master Gardener volunteer.
So when you say volunteer, are there certain approved spots that you can volunteer at? I know in Lincoln maybe the Sunken Garden, but how do you say if you came to my backyard, would you be a volunteer there, or does it have to be approved locations?
It has to be an approved location. You can't volunteer to, for example, work for a landscape company.
Okay.
You have to be working in a public area. We have Master Gardeners. I focus my volunteer time at the Backyard Farmer Garden on East Campus. But we have a lot of people working there, but we have also people working in the Sunken Gardens, in the public gardens here in Lincoln, other than the Sunken Gardens. There's the Rose Garden, Strolling Gardens, and many other public gardens. There are Master Gardeners who work in the schools. There are people who volunteer their time working with kids, teaching gardening. So there is a wide variety of things that you can do, but each program is different in what activities are approved. So the activities for the Lancaster County Extension Master Gardeners are different than the activities for campus Master Gardeners or for Sarpy and Douglas and so forth.
So I guess you can't come to my backyard then and help me
I
out
can't
there.
come to your backyard.
Okay. So
and get credit. I can come to your backyard.
So after you've earned the status of Master Gardener, what's required after that to maintain that status?
After you have become a Master Gardener volunteer, it is 10 hours of education and 20 hours of volunteer time a year.
And then you have, does the fee go down then?
Yes, the fee is nominal
Okay.
after the first year.
Okay,
It is $10 or $20.
So John, as our population ages, we were talking how gardening is still something that's very desirable, but it's harder to do for some folks. And so can you give some tips that might help experienced and rookie gardeners as well, and especially the aged ones, maybe with the pots or raised beds?
Those of us who remember turning 70 have a little more difficulty bending over. And so raised beds are really a nice thing. The raised beds at the Backyard Farmer Garden are popular for many of us who have achieved the 70+ designation. And they are about 3 feet high. They're made of wood. They're going to have to be replaced shortly because the wood doesn't last too long. And those fungi and the insects and bacteria all like to feast on the wood and turn it into soil. But having the garden bed higher is a really good thing. And you can do that from the ground, or you can have a raised apparatus that you can garden in. I would suggest, though, that the very maximum distance from any edge be 2 feet, so that you don't have to lean over too far to try and work on the plants. So if you have access from both sides, you can have a raised bed that is 4 feet wide. But if you're up against a wall, it shouldn't be more than 2 feet wide.
Good point. So like a window box, something on that,
That's
what
right.
the old-fashioned window box.
Yes, but there are portable beds that are on stands that you can find at box stores, and they're smaller, and they're probably 15, 18 inches wide, and they are raised on legs, and some of them have wheels, so you can move them around and you can plant whatever you want in those.
So is the depth important as well? Like for vegetables, say, versus flowers, should it be a certain depth?
You need to have some depth to the pot, to the container. So it should be like a foot deep at least. If it is too deep, you can shorten the depth by putting in some wood chips, plain wood chips, not dyed, not treated, some plain wood chips in the bottom, and then put your potting mix on top of that. And so you can have the roots extending down into the wood chips, and the wood chips will provide some drainage. But it should be like a foot deep because the plant's roots are going to take up the entire area of a raised bed, of a raised container.
So when you talked a little bit about good soil, so you see a lot of places advertise, you know, free dirt or anything. Would you recommend going after this stash of dirt, for lack of a better word, or the organic soil? What's the pros and cons? Probably all con, or all pro, I guess you'd say, for organic soil.
Well, the organics that you add to soil, compost. If it's composted, that's a good thing. And here in Lincoln, you can get free compost from the city at the 48th Street waste station, and they will take the leaves and the grass clippings and they pick those up, and those are dumped in one area, and then they treat those. They have big compost piles, and they take that compost after it has been completed, and they give that away if you are going to shovel it into your containers. But they will. There are also companies that will get that and deliver it for a fee, and that's good to add to your soil. So if you're going to get free soil, I would add up to 25% or even more of the compost to that. The bagged potting mixes are also good, and that's what we use in the containers at the Backyard Farmer Garden. And we change those every year. We dig the old compost out, and we replace the entire mix, because we find that the plants that we put in those containers are going to use every bit of the organics during the year.
So what's the best way then for people to find out more about the program itself, whether the Backyard Farmer or through the university?
The Backyard Farmer television show is celebrating 70 years on the air. It's the longest running locally produced TV show in the nation. And there will be several kinds of celebrations. It's on the public television station on Thursdays at 7 o'clock, and it runs on that station during the weekend. I can't tell you what times right now, but it also runs on the Create channel. Okay.
Well, John, this has been fascinating to me, because this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Thanks for taking the time today, and I do believe they're going to have the scroll at the bottom for if you catch the emails and phone numbers for people to access this information. And I'm glad you've been with us today. Please tune in for more segments on topics, and remember, it's never too late to live and learn.
Vulnerable and senior adults might be living in silent fear of elder abuse and financial exploitation. We can do something about it. The Nebraska DHHS recommends that communities maintain and improve resources such as public transportation and senior centers to prevent social isolation. Engage professionals in various disciplines to find solutions to end elder abuse. Every year, June 15 is observed as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, an opportunity to ensure justice for all.
Welcome to Live and Learn. Research shows us that about 1/3 of us who are over the age of 65 will have a bad fall, causing us serious injury or even death. I'm Doug Jose, and with me today is Dr. Brad Williams, Doctor of Optometry. Dr. Williams is here to discuss how eye care can help us avoid some of those falls. Welcome to the program, Dr. Williams. take a few minutes here to tell us a little bit about your background and yourself.
Okay, thanks, Doug, for inviting me to join you and the viewers this morning. Obviously, it's a very important topic to talk about. I went to high school in Springview, Nebraska. I went to college at University of Nebraska, and then went to high school at Illinois College of Optometry in Chicago. After that, I went into private practice in Crete for a year, went to Ainsworth for 5 years, came to Lincoln, Nebraska, where I started to work for an international contact lens company and worked in the area of research. I was there about 7 years, and I went back into private practice here in Lincoln. In the 80s, I started an optometric consulting business. We called it Williams Marketing, and the purpose was to help eye doctors and staff run their business a little better, how to be more efficient, and et cetera. And a few years ago, we changed it to Williams Group, which is still in existence today. So that's kind of a quick background.
Okay. You have this passion to help people avoid falls. What in this experience that you've had led you to this concern about the relationship between eye care and falls?
Well, I guess number one, when I was in the clinic, I would see people come in. They'd been in the emergency room, maybe previously, and they'd have lacerations with stitches, or you'd see them with black eyes or broken nose, or maybe they had a broken hip or whatever. Some consequences of having, bad falls. And that really kind of disturbed me because the older group was suffering the most with that. Secondly, when you look at the research, as you said, over 30% of the seniors over the age of 65 are going to have a bad fall and suffer the consequences. Those research studies show that most of that is related to our vision. So I thought this would be a good time to talk a little about the anatomy, the physiology, the neurology of the eye, to show our viewers how it kind of ties back to falls.
You have this, you're committed to good eye care, but there are two aspects to that. One is the visual exam, and the other is the health exam. Tell us a little bit about what constitutes a good examination for eye health issues.
Well, basically, optometrists have very good training and in the credentials, licensing, and so forth to provide really good, thorough eye health exams. Obviously, just a little side drop here a minute. When a patient calls for an appointment, most of them are just concerned about their vision. But I always told my patients, as other optometrists do the same, that the most important part is the eye health. If we can keep your eyes healthy, then we can maximize your vision. To do a very thorough eye exam, just quickly, I would if you were my patient, I would start looking. I would take a pen light and we'd start looking at pupillary reflexes. We would do rotations with your eyes up, down, around, and gives me kind of a quick neurological evaluation of how your eyes are working together, your pupils, so forth. Then I would put your chin in this instrument called a biomicroscope. You'd put your chin in there and lean forward. You'd see a bright light. Under high magnification, I would look at the front of your eye, the inside of your eye, your lens, the back of your eye, the retina, and so forth. Every eye doctor has a different battery of tests, but what I've given you is kind of the core tests that would be conducted.
Yeah, I've experienced the putting your chin on the machine as you
Right.
indicated. So let's talk about some of those issues. What about dry eyes? That's something that we hear quite a bit about.
Well, dry eyes, we can put up the diagram there now, would be great. Basically, I'll look at my picture here so I can relate to it. But for the viewers, I want them to look up at the top where it says lipid, water, and mucoid. It's the tear film, okay? When you look at the front of our eye, when we're close to each other, our eyes look sparkly and shiny. Our cornea is the very front part of the eye. It's covered by the epithelium. The epithelium creates the smooth layer for the lids to move over. But on top of that, you have the tear film. The tear film brings oxygen to the cornea. When you look at the at the cornea, the front of our eye. There's no blood vessels going into it. If you did, it'd look kind of creepy, but the cornea is clear and it gets its oxygen from the water layer in the tear film. The lipid layer kind of holds everything intact. The mucoid layer, as it sounds, is the lubricating surface. When you blink 10,000 times a day, you need to make things move slowly, but it's an incredibly balanced system, unbelievably balanced. And what happens is if you have a dry eye condition, which can be caused from systemic problems, but also environmental problems such as dust and dirt, whatever, it breaks down the lipid layer and then the water layer evaporates, and therefore you don't get as much oxygen and your vision fluctuates. And if you get a fluctuation in vision, that's not good. It only would take a few fluctuations to cause you to miss seeing something on your floor or something when you're walking on the sidewalk, or who knows. But just one quick thing. I've had patients who say, you know, I can't see very good. But I'd say, well, your prescription's the same, but what's wrong is you have a dry eye problem. And what we're going to do is we're going to have you go on some drops. I'll tell you about this. I'm looking at this too. We use oftentimes, every patient with dry eyes is different, and the eye doctor's got to determine what works best for them. So you always want to consult your eye care provider before using any of these products. But we use products like, excuse me, over-the-counter, things like Systane. That's a very popular over-the-counter eye drop. And eye drops come in liquid or gel or salve form, depending on the severity of the dryness. And then if we can't take care of it with those kind of over-the-counter drops, we'll go to prescription drugs, such things as Restasis. I'm sure the viewers have seen Restasis advertised. We'll use things like that. I do want to point out, sometimes I have a patient come in and say, well, I've been using Visine or Clear Eyes. You don't want to use those for dry eyes because they're vasoconstrictors. All they do is constrict the blood vessels on the white of your eye, but they don't create dryness. They'll create, you know, a worse problem. So it's a very common problem for people over 65. And during the eye health exam, that should be tested.
Okay, another issue that we hear quite a bit about is glaucoma. How can that be managed?
Well, let's take a look at the picture again of the eye, the cross section. If they'll pull that up for me. As you look at the front of the eye, you see the cornea. Behind it is called the anterior chamber. And that anterior chamber has aqueous fluid in it, kind of secreted from the ciliary body, but you have fluid coming into that chamber and fluid that's supposed to be going out. The fluid goes out over there towards where it says the sulcus sclera, we call it it's kind of a channel out there, canal Schlemm, where the fluid needs to drain away. So you have fluid coming in, fluid going out. If for some reason, that gets blocked going out, that pressure starts to rise in the anterior chamber. That pressure pushes all the way back. You can see the optic nerve at the bottom, and it'll cause optic nerve damage, resulting in, usually the first thing we notice is damage to their peripheral vision. So that's why you need to have that pressure check to make sure it's normal.
Okay, then we could talk about, you've mentioned some of these incredible things here. It's an incredible organ, but another issue that maybe comes up is macular degeneration. Tell us about that.
Well, we'll look at that graphic again, please. When we look inside the eye, and if you go clear down towards the optic nerve on the bottom there, inside there's a little fovea centralis. It's a little indentation that is about the size of a pencil eraser in the macular area. The fovea is just kind of an indentation, but in that area, there are 6 million nerve receptors or photoreceptors. They're packed so close together. That's what gives us our central vision. With macular degeneration, sometimes we have blood vessels, abnormal blood vessels, growing underneath the macula, destroying that. So we start to lose our central vision. And macular degeneration can be caused by, a genetic background or, like diabetes. is a big one. There's other systemic diseases that can cause it as well. So it is a very serious issue. Next to glaucoma, it's one of the leading causes of bad vision and blindness.
Yeah, the incredible organ that we have is needs to be taken care of. We've talked about some of these eye health issues. Let's go back to the other aspect of eye care that we mentioned earlier on, and that's the visual examination. What's involved with good vision exam?
Well, the vision exam starts out with obviously using instrumentation that helps us look straight ahead. The macula, because they're packed together so close, allows us to have our good distance vision. Around that is the peripheral or the side vision, and those are the rods. There's about 120 million rods out there. The cones in the center of the macula give us sharp vision and color. The rods out there help us with movement and with light sensitivity, but they work together in an incredible balance to give us the vision we need to have. And that's what we're testing, is to see how the central vision and peripheral vision are working together.
This is very interesting, and focusing in on what we need to do here. How often should we have these examinations?
Well, the American Optometric Association says, obviously for most patients, it's yearly, but it should be for seniors. They definitely should go in once a year, and they may have to go in more often depending, if they have an eye disease or an infection. But usually once a year, our seniors need to have a very thorough eye health and visual exam to make sure that those two components are healthy and working together as well as you can. Because what we talked about when you talk about cataracts and dry eyes and glaucoma and areas in the retina that can become affected, like the macula, the optic nerve, then obviously it's going to create more of an opportunity to have a bad fall. And that's why I wanted people just to be kind of aware of how the anatomy, the physiology, and the neurology of the eye works together related to bad falls. In our next segment, then we can dig in a little deeper into how and what we can do to avoid bad falls.
Yeah, I was going to mention that this has been very insightful, but we didn't get to the fall part very much, and we'll have you back and talk about that. But you maybe just very, very briefly here mention that what's involved in those interactions.
Well, we're going to give you some examples of how to avoid falls. One of those might be just one of them. We'll give them about 10 or 11 things they can do to help avoid falls. And we'll talk about each one of them, and then we'll summarize, and then we'll tie it back as we're doing that to the visual system. Because as I said earlier, the studies show that bad falls are mostly related to our vision. So wanted to start out with that, and then we'll start talking about what you can do otherwise, physical training and so forth, to help us avoid falls.
Dr. Williams, this has been very helpful. We appreciate you giving us these insights and using your history here and your experience to bring these issues to us. Thanks a lot. We look forward to the next segment and talk about how we can avoid those falls.
Thank you very much.
Remember, it's never too late to live and learn about having good eye health.